So chapter 6 is basically explaining the Sankhya Yoga system, that is more about the Ashtanga Yoga, and it will give us a good comparison with the Bhakti Yoga system. So we will be able to figure out why it is preferred, especially in this age. That is in the Kali Yuga, why Bhakti is the simplest and easiest method, due to which Chaitanya Mahakrishna came in the form of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And then again we have Prabhupada who came, and they have explained to us in great detail for our own facility that Bhakti Yoga is the best. So we will begin with Arjuna's question today. Let me just share the slide as well. So Arjuna asks very important questions from here onwards. So we will be discussing he's going to be asking twice. He's going to intervene Krishna's explanation, Krishna's discourse, and he's going to ask Krishna to explain before he proceeds any further. So these will be very important verses for our clear understanding. So before we begin the chapter 6, not begin, before we start midway and conclude the chapter 6 today, let's pay our humble obeisances to the beautiful deities of Shri Shri Radha Govinda Temple ISKCON Mangalore, and let's thank Srila Prabhupada for giving us all his teachings so clearly and beautifully explained with complete references from the scriptures, which makes it very clear that there is not a single word which comes from him. He clearly says that Krishna is speaking through me, and he gives references of the scriptures. It is not possible for us in the Kali Yuga to go through all the scriptures, so we are extremely grateful to Srila Prabhupada, who has done a thorough, extensive study, and he has given us proof with all the verses from the different scriptures, which makes us understand our own culture, which has been lost to us for generations now. So all glories to the founder Acharya of the ISKCON, His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, his disciple, His Holiness Jayapataka Swami Guru Maharaj, and the ISKCON Mangalore Temple President, His Grace Namnishtha Das Prabhu, and his disciple, my own Shiksha Guru, Aishwarya Mataji. I seek their blessings before I proceed today. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamin Iti Namane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharane Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschate Deshatarane. Mangalacharan. Om Ajnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmeelitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupah Kada Mahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yutapada Kamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavam Cha Shri Rupam Sagarajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Cha Tam Sajivam सादैवतं साद्वैतं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्ण चैतन्य देवं श्री राधा कृष्ण पादन सह गण ललिता श्री विशाखान्वितं च हे कृष्णा करुणा सिंधु दीन बंधु जगतपते गोपेश गोपिका कांता राधा कांता नमोस्तुते तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वांछा कल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिंधुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 रामा राम राम हरे हरे. So once more, I warmly welcome each one of you for being here today. We have completed understanding what is a yoga rudha stage, which is a giving up of all work. And then we have gone through the further stages and practices of yoga. We have gone through that in great speed because we were also discussing the Ramayana, which was also a very blessed discussion, which came in the middle of this chapter 6. And the whole details of Ashtanga Yoga are anyway just a series of procedures, which tells us how all the 8 Ashtanga Yogas are described very clearly in the Bhagavad Gita by Lord Krishna. So although it is in today's age highly impractical, it is in today's age, yet it's very clear it's not something totally impractical for anyone to ever do. It is certainly a practical solution. It can be followed. Otherwise, Krishna would not spend so much time detailing upon it. However, for this age, Krishna will explain and make it more clear by getting the doubt in Arjuna, by getting Arjuna to express that is no way possible for me. So when Arjuna, who is such an elated devotee, such an elated personality, he can say that he can't do it, then who are we to even try to do it? So that realization is what Krishna wants us to get by the end of this chapter. And so in section 4, which we will be starting today, we are going to understand how important and how necessary it is for a person to control the turbulent mind. The mind is very turbulent, and the controlling of turbulent mind will happen only when you first disidentify yourself from your mind. The moment you think that you are the mind and you get carried away with your mind, there is absolutely no scope of controlling the mind. There is absolutely no scope of being aware of where your mind is taking you, being aware of the direction in which your mind is going. Like the mind is the reins, and the horses are the senses running after sense objects. So unless the rein is actually having, is being pulled, is under the control of your intelligence, there is no scope of the mind being in control. And you have to feel that separateness from your mind. I'm not this mind, I'm not this body. That separateness will come, and then you will be able to control. If you identify yourself at the sense level, you're just running after your sense desires. That is a low level, and the little higher is you identify yourself with the mind. But that also is extremely disastrous, because that is surely going to lead to pure disaster. It's going to just lead to a fall after fall, because you'll be at the material level running after material pleasures which are temporary, which will lead to fall. And then we will be looking at this very beautiful part of destination of the unsuccessful yogi, and finally the topmost yogi, which is the bhakti yogi. So before we proceed, I just would like to quickly go through these two kinds of yogas which we are comparing here. So why are we, what is the basic purpose of this yoga that we are doing? The basic purpose of all yoga is to attain Krishna, actually. The basic purpose is to, yoga itself simply means attaining Krishna, being able to remember the Lord, especially at the time of death. That is what is our ultimate goal. So it may seem a bit very far-fetched to keep thinking about our death, which you don't even know when it is. It may be after so many years. But unless we keep preparing for it, there is no chance for us to remember at that moment of death, when we have all these breathing difficulties and everything. Remembering Krishna would be very, very difficult. So in the simplest way is to simply engage oneself in bhakti, which requires you to actually give yourself 24/7, which is very, very demanding. At the same time, it is also a price which you have to pay if you want to get this bhakti. So Krishna says that in the verse 9.2, in the chapter 9, he discusses it several times. Like in 9.31, Krishna clearly says that Kaunteya pratijanihi name bhakta pranashyati. So he says, if you become my bhakt, once you take up bhakti, then there is name bhakta pranashyati. My bhakt will never, never fall. So he will quickly, first of all, become righteous and attain the lasting peace. And he says that, O son of Kunti, declare it, that my devotee will never fall. So Krishna is promising here, right? Don't be lost to Krishna. You will, you just be with Krishna all the time. So you can find how people actually give up everything. Once you give yourself to Krishna, you nothing else matters anymore. You can see how the Shad Goswamis, right? They were very, very opulent. The Shad Goswamis, including the highly elevated Rupa Goswami, who has given us the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, which Srila Prabhupada has made it simple in the form of nectar of devotion, which is a very beautiful text to read. And then we have Sanatan Goswami, the Rupa Goswami's brother, and all of them included in the Shad Goswamis. They're all very, very opulent and rich positions, but they give up everything, and almost come to the level of mendicants. But then they are such elevated devotees, and you can say that in the Goswami prayer we find Tyaktva Turnam Ashesha Mandala Pati Shrenim Sada Tuchhavat. That is from the Sri Shad Goswami Ashtaka 4. So what it means is that he says that I offer my respectful obeisances unto the Goswamis, namely Sri Rupa Goswami, Sanatan Goswami, Raghunath Bhatta Goswami, Sri Raghunath Dasa Goswami, Sri Jiva Goswami, and Sri Gopala Bhatta Goswami, who kicked off all association of aristocracy. So this is the level that we can get once we attach ourselves to Krishna. And then they consider association of aristocracy as insignificant. And in order to deliver poor conditioned souls, they accept loincloths and treat themselves as mendicants, but they are always merged in ecstatic ocean. Don't go by the appearance of these devotees. Right? Even if they appear as mendicants, they are actually enjoying ecstatic ocean of the gopis' love for Krishna, and they are repeatedly in the waves of that ocean. So this is what bhakti is, is what bhakti means. And if we go to the yoga which you're talking about here, that is the Sankhya yoga or the Ashtanga yoga, the main purpose there actually also is ultimately to merge in Krishna. But the difference is that a devotee never wants to merge. He doesn't want to merge because he wants to stay in that indebted condition. He wants to be in that blissful condition, because once you merge, it is nowhere close to the bliss that you experience when you're in bhakti. So that is a main thing. So what we can see in this verse, which is from bhakti from Brahma Samhita, verse 5.38, we can see this shloka. It goes like this: Premanjana churita bhakti vilochaneena Shantah sadaiva hridayeshu vilokayanti Yam Shama Sundaramachintya Gunaswarupam Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. So this verse says, I worship Govinda. Who is Govinda? He is a primeval Lord, the cause of all causes. He is the Shama Sundara. He is actually having a form, which is a Shama Sundara form. And he is Krishna himself, and he has innumerable attributes. And the pure devotees, they in their heart of hearts, with their eye of devotion tinged with the salve of love, they are conceiving him. They are able to see him. So one who has developed this pure love for Krishna, he is able to see this Shama Sundara form. So within his heart, right? So a yogi who is practicing meditation on the super soul, on the other hand, when the yogi reaches a stage, I think Ravi Prabhu has posted the attendance already. Those who would like to, all of you can please mark your attendance before you continue listening. Please mark your attendance for the day. So what I was saying is that a yogi, when he in this Ashtanga Yoga chapter, what we're discussing, the yogi, when he reaches the height of meditation, he actually starts perceiving the super soul or the Krishna's four-handed form within himself. He's able to see the four hands, the holding the conch shell, the wheel, the club, and the lotus flower. And this is actually Vishnu. This Vishnu form or the Paramatma form is Krishna's plenary portion. So again, we can see in the Brahma Samhita in the verse 5.47, the verse goes like this. It says, Yah karanarna vajale bhajati sma yoga nidramananta jagadanda saroma kupaha sa vishnura mahan sa vishnurma sa vishnurmahan sa ihayasya kala vishesho Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. So it says that I adore the primeval Lord Govinda, who, assuming his own great subjective form, who bears the name of Shesha, replete with all accommodating potency and reposing in the causal ocean with the infinity of the world in the pose of his head, enjoys creative sleep or yoga nidra. So what does this mean? Govindam Adi Purusham. So Purusham is the Lord, the male, the enjoyer. Adi means original. So Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. He is the plenary portion is Mahavishnu over here. What is the function of Mahavishnu? Yasyaika Nivasita Kalam. So it goes Jivanti Loma Villaja Jagat Andanatha. So Brahma and other lords of the mundane words, they are appearing from where? They are simply appearing from the pores of the hair of the Mahavishnu, who is an expansion of Krishna, and they remain alive only as long. This is so unimaginable for us. Each of these, Brahma, which is coming from the pores, all the lords of the mundane worlds coming from the pores of Mahavishnu, they will remain alive only for the duration of one exhalation of Mahavishnu. And here in this verse, is saying, I adore that primeval Lord Govinda, of whose subjective personality Mahavishnu is a portion of the portion. So you can understand how much upper, higher up in the spiritual world is Krishna, the original person, right? But then we have so many other expansions. So when we, keep on studying the scriptures, you're doing jnana, we are trying to understand. So it's more through the jnana perspective that we are looking in this here in this verse for some time. What we are seeing is that the life of Brahma or the life of one universe is existing in terms of the Mahavishnu only for one breathing period. So Mahavishnu is lying on that causal ocean, and while he's exhaling, millions of such universes are going on, coming as bubbles, and then again when he inhales, they all go back within. It's over. The life is over with the next inhalation. And within that time, we know that how we have seen Brahma's life in one of our previous classes, how unimaginable that itself is. And then there are so many of it is like a very big. The scriptures give us such a zoomed out. What do you call it? Vision of this of the whole manifestation, which cannot be even perceived by any of us. Only from scriptures we come to know about it. So this is a position of the material world. It's just going in, coming out. Bhutva, bhutva, praliyate. In Bhagavad Gita, verse 8.19, we hear Bhutva, bhutva, praliyate. Again and again, the day comes and the host of beings are active, and again the night falls, and then they are helplessly dissolved. So that is a condition of the material universe. So Mahavishnu is a plenary portion of the plenary portion of Krishna, the original Govindam Adi Purusham Tamam Bhajami, and the Mahavishnu enters into each universe as the Garbhodakshay Vishnu. So the Garbhodakshay Vishnu is an expansion of Mahavishnu entering into each of the different universes that are being created. And from there, again, we have an expansion from the Garbhodakshay Vishnu, where the Kshirodakshay Vishnu or the Paramatma form enters each and every atom or each and every living entity. So, and that is what is being perceived by the yogis who are in meditation. That is, they perceive the plenary expansions, plenary expansions, plenary expansions, plenary expansions. So so much down the line, we have the Paramatma residing within the heart, and that is whom they perceive, and that gives them so much of bliss. So the yoga is concentrating on this. The yogi who is doing the Ashtanga yoga is concentrating on this particular Vishnu form, who is all pervading, who is Ishvara Sarva Bhutanam Hriddesh Hriddesherjuna Tishtati. So in verse Bhagavad Gita 18.61, Krishna says, Ishvara Sarva Bhutanam Hriddesherjuna Tishtati. So he says that the Supreme Lord is situated in everyone's heart in the Paramatma form and is directing the wanderings of all the living beings. And he's seated as if on a machine made of material energy. So this is this whole reference. I wanted to make this comparison between where is bhakti taking us, whom are we worshipping when we are doing bhakti. We're straight away up there in the spiritual world, in the Goloka Vrindavan, not even in the Vaikuntha where we have the Narayana form, which is a more formal appearance of the Lord. We are directly in love with Krishna, who is in the Golok Vrindavan. Whereas the yogis are, with all the so much of effort, which is not even possible in our Kali Yuga with such short lives, they are only achieving basically the Paramatma realization, which is the second level of realization. And of course, when they keep going on with it, they will reach Krishna realization, because without Krishna realization, there is no scope of achieving the highest perfection. So they will stay there unless they will move to bhakti. They will be stuck kind of there. So in 6.33 to 36, these four verses, we are going to look at the necessity of controlling the mind. And although control of mind is difficult, nevertheless, control of the mind is essential and obtainable only by two things: detachment from the material world and attachment to Krishna. So let's move on. So we are looking at Arjuna here. Arjuna is like such an elevated devotee. He has so much of concentration and focus, nowhere close to what we can imagine. None of the Pandavas could achieve what he could achieve. He could, hit the bird's eye. We know that story about how he also got the hands of Draupadi. We also know about the story of how he was, I think, blessed by his third story. Anybody knows his third story? I don't seem to remember this third story. It's also about the Pandavas and how Arjuna was blessed. So he has received lot of blessings from so many divine people. Here we can see him in combat with Lord Shiva. So Shiva was once, just around as a hunter, and how a boar was killed at the same time. As you can see, a boar they killed at the same time by both Arjuna and Shiva, and how they have a fight, and how Shiva is pleased with how Arjuna is so skillful, and he gives him many more blessings. So such an elevated devotee as Arjuna, who is also Nar Narayana. In the Nar Narayana, Nar is actually Arjuna. So they have together done, for years of meditation, and that is that, the Asura with so many shields, and they actually get successfully, they kill that Asura as well. So then, even in the Nar Narayana, what I'm trying to say, he's not a normal soul. And even he, what does he say after hearing this very elaborate process of Ashtanga Yoga, which has been detailed so far? Arjuna says, "Oh Madhusudana, this system of yoga which you have summarized appears impractical and unendurable for me, for the mind is restless and unsteady." So that's what we can see even Arjuna saying. And he is saying in this, he says, Yoyam yogastvaya proktaha samyena madhusudana etasyaham na pashyami chanchala tvat sthitim stiram. So he says that what you have summarized is unendurable for me. And this is a really, really important verse which goes 6.34. He says, Chanchalam hi manah Krishna pramathi balavadridham tasyaham nigraham manye vayoriva sudushkaram. So he says, even the wind, Vayu, even the wind is, easily, more easily, I can control the wind. So Arjuna can at least control the wind. We are far from even that. This is, a mind is so restless, so turbulent, so obstinate, and so strong. We call it the monkey mind. And he says, "Oh Krishna, it's impossible to subdue it. And I think it is more difficult than even controlling the wind. And here you're telling me to control the mind, which is so difficult and impossible." And then in 6.35, the Lord will actually accept. The Lord doesn't say, "Oh no, 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 of course not." He doesn't say that. He agrees immediately to Arjuna. And he says in verse point 35, he says, "I understand. Of course, it is difficult to control." So what we have seen is in verse point 33, Arjuna is saying that this Ashtanga yoga is impractical. He's not saying it is impractical. It may be practical for someone, but what we need to understand is it is practical only for somebody who's already renounced everything and is already in able to be in a position of living in a secluded and sacred place. So this system of mysticism is ultimately there rejected, because Arjuna is more of a family person. And in the present age, where we have such a short duration of life, like earlier, it would maybe our forefathers used to live, say, up to even 90, 100. Now you will see most people are living only up to 60, 70, 80, at the most 85, 90 itself. We are in disbelief. How come he's living so much? So the age has reduced so much. Not only the age of our present generation, but also our memory power is very, very low. And you can see, already in 60s and 70s, people start getting all Alzheimer's and all these diseases. They start losing their memory. That's why we need to start practicing bhakti at an early age. We don't wait for us to retire, and then when our children have gone and married, and then we practice. No, actually, that is not the way it should be done. That is why I feel in today's generation, we need to start teaching the Gita to children itself. We don't need to be scared that, oh, children are going to, why should we teach them about death so early and be prepared for death? No, no. Bhagavad Gita does teach us to prepare for the final examination, but it should be taught at a very young age, is what I firmly believe. So now the duration of life is short. The mercifulness that people have, the patience that they have is very, very less. So therefore, it is, people are not even following simple methods, simply chant. Even that they're, not even able to accept in today's generations. We can find many people find it very difficult. And look at Arjuna. In his age, people live for so many years. In the Treta Yuga, the age limit was something like 10,000 years. In Satya Yuga, the limit was like 100,000 years. And even though Arjuna was at his time, people were living for up to 1,000 years, and still even he thought that this Ashtanga Yoga is not possible for me. And therefore, we can see that, in our yoga, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, in this Chaitanya Charitamrita Adi 17.21, which is a very famous verse, he clearly says, Hare Nama, Hare Nama, Hare Nama Eva Kevalam. That is only Hari's name. In this age, we need to just, this is the only thing we need to understand, that the only way for us to save ourselves from this material world today is to chant. Hare Nama, Hare Nama, Hare Nama Eva Kevalam. So in this age of Kali, no other means, no other means, no other means other than chanting the holy name, chanting the holy name, chanting the holy name. Kalo Nastyeva, Nastyeva, Nastya. So he says, repeating everything three times. And then what does it happen? What does it bring to us? It brings to us Pratyakshaavagamam Dharmyam. It brings to us the self-realization simply by sitting and chanting. So simple. You just sit and you chant. Just by doing that, Pratyakshaavagamam Dharma, the highest attainment of religion, that is self-realization, that is a samadhi, the higher than that, in fact, you can get, because this knowledge related to bhakti, which we will see in verse 9.2, it is a king of education. There is nothing else more to know once you know this. It is the most secret of all secrets. It is the purest because it gives direct perception of the self by self-realization. This is the translation of the verse 9.2, which I have just read out to you. So in 9.34, we have seen how actually what we need, again, I'm saying that when we chant Hare Krishna, it actually captures our mind immediately. Even small children, you will find when you start chanting, they will clap with you. They will immediately, be in tune. You don't need to have some high scriptural knowledge or anything. Simply you listen as you're chanting, and this means the yoga system, the whole process is immediately attained, because the whole yoga system simply actually is to arrive at concentration of your mind on Vishnu. And Krishna is the original form. Vishnu is thereafter the expansion, as we have just gone through the whole, the list of expansions of Krishna, reaching all the way to the Paramatma form. So what we need to understand is that a person who has concentrated his mind some way or the other, yena kena prakarena, mani Krishna niveshyati, you just have to ultimately some way or the other think of Krishna. That is all the ultimate aim is. So person who gets that, he has attained the highest perfection of yoga. So all we need to do, although we are going through all these chapters and all these, translations and purports, that is all we need to understand. As Krishna is telling us in verse 6.35, he says, Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Asamshayam Mahabaho, no doubt at all, Asamshayam. Mano Durnigraham Chalam Abhyasena tu Kaunteya. Abhyas, through practice. Vairagena cha guhyate. And how do you get detachment? Not possible to get detachment without attachment to Krishna. So in today's world, we just can't imagine that let me first detach myself and then I will get attached to Krishna. You need to achieve, as you grow in attachment, you will grow in the detachment will come automatically without any struggle. So there are two things that we need to do. One is abhyasa, which is practice, and the second is vairagya, that is detachment. So these two things, Krishna tells us that they are, if you want to control your mind, you have to have them. The senses can be controlled only through repeated practice. Why are we attending these classes day in and day out? Why are we trying to, why is Prabhupada telling us chant, chant, chant? Why are we asked to be in devotee association? Why are we asked to read Srila Prabhupada's books regularly? Why are we asked not to read other books? Not to be in association of non-devotees, to avoid that, because it is so difficult to stay away from Maya and to reach this ultimate destination. So we are fortunate to even reach here, right? We have this verse from Chaitanya Charitamrita. I may be repeating from previous classes, but these are my favorite verses. It says, ब्रह्मांड भ्रमिते कोनो भाग्यवान जीव Guru Krishna Prasade Paye Bhakti Lata Bij. So it's through the mercy, Guru Krishna Prasad, through their, blessing and grace, we have got this Bhakti Lata Bij. We are just getting this small little seed of bhakti, and then we need to keep watering it so that it will grow and take us all the way up to the spiritual world of Golok Vrindavan and take us to the feet of Krishna. So that is our aim. And Brahmand Brahmite, so huge this world is. So many people are, souls are here and there. They're stuck in this material world, in so many different forms. Those so many 8,40,000 forms, people are there. And so many souls are trapped in these different gross and material bodies. And then we have these few fortunate, Kono Bhagyavanaji. And really have to feel blessed and thankful to Krishna that this message is coming through to us through these level 1, level 2 courses, and then you keep pursuing. You get addicted, you get attached to Krishna, and so that it makes the detachment so beautiful and simple. At the same time, the process requires to be followed, so that otherwise it's very easy um, to fall. So you need to hold on to that, so that you can reach that ultimate bliss which we are all seeking and which we know is there. So Lord Krishna says, undoubtedly very difficult to curb the restless mind, but practice, and then by detachment you can do it. The mind must be controlled by engaging it in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. And unless one is engaged in this Krishna consciousness, he cannot steady the control of the mind. A Krishna conscious person, however, very easily, Krishna clearly says, actually, if you practice Krishna consciousness, you can very easily achieve the result of yoga practice. No need for any separate endeavor. You don't need to sit and do pranayam, and you don't need to do all the elaborate practices at all. A yoga practitioner cannot achieve the success without becoming Krishna conscious. A yoga person may take births and births and births to achieve that perfection of even that level of what is that, dharana, dhyana, and then samadhi. But that is only reaching him up to the super soul awareness, and then he needs to reach up to Krishna consciousness thereafter. So Krishna is giving his final opinion. He is giving it in verse 6.36, where he says, Asamyatatmana yogo dushprapa iti me matihi vashyatmana tu yatata shakyo vaptumupayataha. So for one whose mind is unbridled, self-realization is difficult work, but he whose mind is controlled and who strives by appropriate means is sure to achieve success. So trying to practice, in the purport, Krishna says, Srila Prabhupada explains that trying to practice yoga while engaging the mind in material engagement is like you igniting a fire while simultaneously pouring water on it. So we need to ultimately understand that we cannot run after material desires and at the same time say that, oh, I'm a spiritual person, because they cannot go together simultaneously. Now, this may be a bit harsh. Some people still would like to continue their material, pleasures. They still are captured, captivated by the possessions that they have. They're unable to think that this is not mine, this is Krishna. So that is difficult. But then you need to, as you keep listening and you keep understanding bhakti, you need to understand that these two cannot go together. So yoga practice without mental control is also similarly a waste of time. You simply sit and you're doing yoga, but you actually don't have control over your mind. It's a waste of time. And actually, if you sit and do this voidism, right, many people, they sit, they start, go for all these different what is that, vipassana and this and that. You concentrate on some void, on some color, and they don't concentrate on the rupa of beautiful rupa of Vishnu or Krishna. They're not concentrating on that. Or when they concentrate on the divine form of the Lord, how easy it is to get that bhakti rasa, and how easy it is to reach the ultimate goal. Instead, you're forcing yourself not to think about anything, just some color, just some voidism, and then you are expecting to get success. So that doesn't happen unless, because your mind cannot be controlled. Also, you will find that it is usually a sheer waste of time. It takes your births and births to even reach the mental control state. So now we have Arjuna will be asking, what is the condition of an unsuccessful yogi? So unsuccessful transcendentalists will either heavenly enjoyment, they will either have enjoy some heavenly pleasures, and thereafter they will also get aristocratic birth if they are slightly advanced, and even if they are even further advanced, then they will be straight away going to a transcendental family where they can immediately start off from where they had left in their previous birth. So even if you don't achieve your highest destination within one birth, you can still, your practice is never going to go waste. So although a person begins his faith later and he later desists, suddenly he feels more worldly minded. His love for his children or attachment for his family is just overtaking him. He's not able to pursue bhakti in, with 100% manmana bhava madbhakto. He's not able to reach there, and thus he does not attain perfection. So those are what are being said in verse 37, 38, and 39. So Chalita Manasa in 6.37, Arjuna is saying, What is the destination of a man of faith who does not persevere, who in the beginning takes the process of self-realization, but later he desists due to world-mindedness, right? So that's the question. Chalita Manasa, which is a very diverting kind of mind. Yoga Chalita Manasa. Yoga Chalita Manasa means that from the practice of yoga, Chalita means diversion. Our mind is getting diverted from the practice of yoga. So that can happen at any time. One who gets deviated. So this question is very, very important. So, however, when you're, in Krishna consciousness, we are preparing, we prepare for this Krishna consciousness. It's just like, what happens is this consciousness is compared to an aroma. The consciousness that we have is compared to an aroma of a rose or a flower. And when the air passes through, we can smell that rose flower, right? Similarly, when our material body gets finished, when we die, then dust thou art, to dust you will return, right? So the five elements get, that is earth, water, fire, air, and ether, they get mixed up again with the natural elements, right? For example, we have different societies, some will burn the dead body, some will allow animals to eat it, some will bury it. So either it is it gets converted, when other animals are eating it, ultimately what happens to the body? It gets converted to the stool of that particular animal, or it gets converted to ashes, or it gets converted into dust, it gets mixed up into dust. So the gross elements, when we die, the gross elements simply get merged with the nature, with the natural elements. Whereas what happens to the finer elements? Our finer or subtle body is made up of mind, intelligence, and ego. And actually, it is these very three things which are referred to as consciousness of the soul. And they carry the spirit soul. These three subtle body, what do? They carry the spirit soul. What is the spirit soul? It's a very tiny spirit particle. How small is the spirit particle? It is the size of the tip of the hair divided by 100, further divided by hundreds, 1 by 10,000th part of the tip of the hair. Such a tiny spirit soul is being carried by the fine three elements: mind, intelligence, and consciousness. Now it depends on what kind of smell it is carrying, the aroma. Is it some filthy stool like smell, or is it some beautiful rose? Depends on what kind of consciousness you have been working on. If your consciousness has been with Krishna, then automatically it will carry you to Krishna. Whereas if your consciousness is carrying, whatever sorts of desires and stuff, and your past tendencies, will automatically you will be taken to a similar body, right? Also similar parents, you'll be born as per whatever. It may not even be human. However, you can be very thankful and sure that once you've come to Krishna consciousness, even if you don't go back to Krishna, you surely get a human body. At least that much you can is being asserted by the scriptures. So our duty, so when we hear so much, what is our duty? When we know, now that we know the scriptures and we have at least come to the point of trying to understand and accept the scriptures, then what is our duty now? It is to make our consciousness divine. If you want spiritual elevation, we want to go back to Krishna, we want to go back home, back to Godhead, which is eternal life, blissful life, no more coming back again and again, as per the breathing of Vishnu, going out and coming back in this multiple universe. You're just going on and on. You're out free from this whole time bound material world. So and there's a, you must have, if you will remember, in chapter 2 we had learned this beautiful set of verses. Dhyayato Vishyan Punsa Sange Seshu Pajayate Sangat Sanjayate Kamat Krodho Vijayate. This is showing the fall, the steps to fall. Actually, the same 8 steps apply for rising also. Dhyayato Vishyan, as the kind of things you think of, Sangat Sanjayate Ka, you get attached to that. So just as you're talking about how attachment to sense objects will lead to our downfall, similarly attachment to Krishna, when you keep thinking, it will take us into the higher realms, obviously. So the same Sangat Sanjayate Kama also applies in a positive sense. Although when we are discussing chapter 2, we are only talking about the 8 steps to fall.
I just need to ask you something.
Yes, Mataji.
So the thing is that here you have been saying that devout devotee, we don't want to actually merge into higher Vishnu, or we don't want to merge into Krishna. We want to be where we are so that we can continuously be devoted to him and enjoy bhakti and faith. And here we are also talking that we want to merge into Krishna. So I'm a little confused. Do we want to merge or do we not want to merge? What is
So
it
the
that
word merge actually can be taken in two senses. One of the merge is when you are just, literally merging, where where you lose all your, your existence and everything, and you're just merging into the transcendence. And that is one of the what do you call it, mokshas, right? There are so many types of liberation. So one of the types of liberation is when you merge into the transcendence, or in this material energy, you merge into that. But that is a temporary one. But the one, when I am talking about, when you merge your consciousness with Krishna, that is in detached. You are still separate from him. It doesn't mean that you are one with him. It doesn't mean that you become Krishna, right? So what these impersonalists, their aim is, they want to become one with the material energy. They can never become Krishna, but they don't realize that. So they think that, let me become one with the material, and they become one with the material energy after all their efforts, and then that is temporary, and it will, they have to come back, because you can't stay there. And because it's a part of the material world, everything here is, it is temporary, it has a cycle, and so it goes back into the cycle. Whereas if you are going to devote yourself in completed service of the Lord, that merging is basically all about giving up all your personal desires, your sense of possession, and you need to be constantly thinking in bhakti of Krishna, in that high state of ecstatic love and bliss. So that is when you want to remain separate from him, and want to be of service to him, and you want to actually, that takes you to spiritual world automatically. So like I spoke about how these aromas, right? So these aromas will automatically take you to Krishna, and even they will disappear once you reach the spiritual world. Even the subtle body disappears, and then you're only the spirit soul. And the spirit soul actually has transcendental senses, and then you're in that ultimate bliss. You are in his service. And for to reach, and for that purity, right? So everything related to Krishna or the spiritual world is pure. There is no contamination of any sort. So to reach that pure state, to reach that spiritual world, not simply merging in the material, the universal form of the Lord, that is a material energy. And the whole material world is Krishna's energy, right? We will be learning that tomorrow in chapter 7. The entire material world is simply Krishna's energy. So we want to merge the impersonalists. They're not able to perceive Krishna as a person in a spiritual world. So they see Krishna as the energy around them, and this material world is, of course, Krishna's energy. He says it is my energy, and they want to merge. So that merging is different from reaching for the higher spiritual world, where you want to merge. In that sense means where you want to give up all your material body and your gross and subtle bodies both, and you want to reach the spiritual realm, be with Krishna. So there are so many types of muktis which you'll be learning. I don't remember. I should be studying that for my Bhakti Shastri exam now, but I don't remember the terms right now. The one of them is merging in the material energy. Then there is one where you take on the form of the Vishnu Dutas. You become just having the form of the Vishnu forms. One of them is when you are just in the world of Vishnu. You're just there in the same loka, but you're not close associate. And then when you even further reach highest stage, you become a close associate of the Lord himself, right? For example, like Hanuman, or personally you're serving him, where you know God, Krishna, and you're serving him personally. That is like the and that is what the bhaktas, they want to just be of service to Krishna himself. They want to be serving him. So this mukti actually has so many stages. So when we say merging, they're all kind of merging. Because why is it merging? Because you're all kind of giving up everything that you want. However, the material world energy realization is, of course, temporary again, because it only helps you to merge with the material energy for some time, as long as the material world is there. Then again you are having to go back into the cycle. So that is a reason why we in the scriptures have explained to us that beyond the material energies of this world which we can see, there is a spiritual world. Even that is so vast. It has so many different sections which have been described. I have not done so much of study, but from whatever I have done, I have heard,
But the
there are so
start is
many.
in the material world only, right? You start because you are in the material
We are in
world.
the material world.
You start over there, no?
We,
How
yeah.
you immediately jump to another place? Like I really I find it difficult to understand. That is personally for me. Maybe you all are very realized, but
No, I am
I find it.
nothing. We are not at all
So
realized,
the
Mataji.
thing is that I don't understand what this is. Either you merge or you don't merge. Like, this is very confusing for me that you say you merge and you don't merge. So in the material world, to start with, you are praying to other Lord. You are wanting to merge with him. Means to merge with him in the first place, you have to give up your ego. You have to give up your individuality. You have to give up everything. On the other hand, we are saying we have to maintain our individuality and make sure that he is another entity, and we have to be only a bhakta and pray to him as an entity. So that confuses me, ma'am, very much.
Yeah. So, Mataji, I think the only way you can remove that confusion is to understand that this subtle body, which we are talking about, mind, intelligence, and ego, is
Yeah.
also not us, right? That is also not us. So, when we are talking about giving up our material body, includes both the gross body and the subtle body. And when we give both of these up, we automatically reach the spiritual world. So
Yes.
because that then we are purified. When we become pure, we are reaching the spiritual world. But then when we are saying that,
No,
and
please stop now. Stop now. So
yeah,
when we are reaching the spiritual world, now where is this world? In the material world or not in the material world?
the spiritual world which we are talking about after giving up both the material and the it is both the gross and the subtle
Material world.
bodies, gross and the subtle bodies. That is a spiritual world. It is not in the material world. Whereas when we are talking about merging with the transcendence of the Lord, that energy of the Lord, that you don't give up your subtle body. You're holding on to your subtle body still with you, and then you are merging in the energy of the Lord. So you're only merging in the material world. So you are still in the material world. It is only when you are freeing from both the material and subtle bodies, the gross and subtle bodies, that you reach, and that is possible only through Krishna consciousness. Without Krishna consciousness, you can't reach the spiritual world, because otherwise you still remain in the material world. And of course, we are all in the material world, and that is why the scriptures are telling us that if you follow bhakti, you can straight away go to spiritual world. Whereas if you don't realize Krishna as a person, the spiritual world, you are not able to go there. You will only remain in the material world, because that is the highest you can go. If you're not having the consciousness of the Lord as a person, if you're not able to understand the spiritual world as in being there's a Lord who's in control, and you're not able to understand him as a person, then you will only able to be you will only remain in the highest possible material realization. In the material world, that's where you will remain. You will be able to give up your gross body, but you will not be able to reach the spiritual world unless you are in Krishna consciousness. That's why we are describing in the Gita so many systems of yoga, and we are explaining the Ashtanga yoga, whereby it is explained that the highest possible is Paramatma realization. The highest you can get by the process of meditation on the void, and on energy and all that, is to realize the God within your heart. You can't go beyond that. So unless you will gradually come to realize Krishna, the bhakti will not. The bhakti is basically rasa, right? So the bhakti rasa will not be possible, and so with that aroma of bhakti rasa, which will take you to spiritual world, it is not possible without bhakti. So there are people who have more of a tendency, liking for doing the meditation on the void and not on the Krishna form. But then the ultimate that they get through the years and years and maybe births and births of meditation is the Paramatma realization. So that's what I explained in the beginning of this class, that through that process of meditation, you only reach the Paramatma realization. So for bhakti, you have to have Krishna realization. Without Krishna consciousness, the bhakti and all the different rasas associated with enjoying the personal form of the Lord is not possible. So that's what our Gita is telling us, and that's what Prabhupada and the scriptures tell us. So, of course, if you read books written by impersonalists, you will be very much convinced that the world is entirely just energy, and they will not speak anything about Krishna in the personal form. In fact, they will derogatorily speak about people who love Krishna in the person form, saying that that's a lower form. So that is why Prabhupada advises us that once you come to the bhakti, then you need to try to avoid reading books which are written by impersonalists, because they will very convincingly try to lure you into understanding that voidism and impersonalism is the higher form rather than bhakti, and they will proclaim that bhakti is a lower form. So it depends on different people. Some people would take up that, they could go ahead with that. But then when you're coming to the Bhagavad Gita, as in the description given by Srila Prabhupada, he propounds very clearly that the Mayavadi philosophy or the impersonalism is actually dangerous, because that is the highest trap of Maya. As per what Prabhupada says, is that that is the biggest trap that Maya throws upon us, where we are actually kind of not accepting the superiority of the person that is Krishna. And it is kind of a way of lording over the material world, where you want to imagine that you become one with the energy, and then it's almost like thinking that I am Krishna, whereas a person cannot become the Lord. We are, after all, a tiny spirit soul. So that realization that I am not this body, I am not this mind, I am this spirit soul, and I'm a part and parcel of the Supreme Lord. These kind of realizations only lead us to bhakti. But the looking at the whole world as an energy and merging with the energy, that whole line of thinking is got so much of scriptures in itself. And if you read those, then these will seem not convincing. That's why Prabhupada guards us. And he, once you come into bhakti, he tells us very clearly, do not read books which are not written by bhaktas, because they will be very, very convincing, and try to tell you that worshipping Krishna is not the right way. So whereas the Bhagavad Gita, clearly Krishna is saying, I am the Lord, I am the Lord, he says, and come to me, leave everything, think of me. So right, so if you're coming into this path, you need to guard against all Maya's tricks. Maya will play many, many tricks with us. So it is very important to guard ourselves from that line of thinking. So we need to constantly, ouch, what happened? We need to constantly think of Krishna, and associate ourselves with devotees. And that is the reason why there is no, how much there's no limit as to how much I need to stress that unless we keep ourselves in association of devotees, we will not be able to reach this bhakti path. We'll not be able to keep ourselves here. It will be easy to feel that, probably not focusing on Krishna is a better way. But again, it people, it differs from what your tendency is. So you can always follow the path, because ultimately all paths lead you to Krishna. Krishna says all paths lead to me ultimately. So there is, no doubt about that. Only thing is, one, some are more difficult and longer, as Krishna explains very clearly. It's not that it's not possible, but they're simply more difficult and more longer. So, Mataji, I would just ask you to stay with us. We are only in chapter 6 now. So as we come to 7 and 8 and 9, maybe you will get a clearer picture of what is, merging. And if I'm using the term merging into Krishna, it is wrong. I don't think that Prabhupada has used that term. By merging, I think if I've used it, I don't mean it in that way, because we're not talking about merging at all. We are talking about being at the service of Krishna's lotus feet, as in being, with him. That's what I mean. So I don't mean by becoming one and losing all our devotee identification as well. So that's not what I have meant. So if I have caused any confusion about that, I really apologize for that.
No, it's okay. No, not at all. Please don't do that. It's fine. I will, like you're saying, let's wait and for the
Yeah,
next chapters
let's
for more
let's
clarity.
yeah,
Yeah.
let's go through, let's patiently go through these 18 chapters, and
Yes.
then we'll feel like keep coming back now, like, you keep coming back to it to understand, because it's a very, very profound concept to really understand.
Yes.
So in 6.38, we can see Krishna says, "Oh, Arjuna says, oh, mighty am Krishna. Does not such a man who is bewildered from the path of transcendence fall away from both spiritual and material success and perish like a riven cloud with no position in any sphere?" So this is a worry of Arjuna. He says that, suppose I give up everything and I take up to bhakti, and now I'm neither a person who's successful in the world of spirituality, nor am I successful in the material world. So both, I have kind of lost both. Now what do I do? What happens to me? So I'm somewhere stuck in the middle. So this is his doubt. And he says, Krishna, you're the only one. In 6.39, Arjuna says that there's no one but you who can dispel this huge doubt that is arising in my mind. So the Supreme Personality of Godhead says, he replies in 6.40 that a transcendentalist engaged in auspicious activities does not meet with destruction. So the moment you are engaging yourself in Krishna's thoughts, just, he says, Janma karma cha me divyam, just thinking about how I was born, what are the different activities of my childhood, what are the divine leelas that Krishna has done, just thinking about them, talking about them itself, you are in a transcendental realm. And such a person can, when once you're there, you can never meet destruction, neither in this world or in the spiritual world, as long as you are with Krishna in your thoughts, you're always with him. And one who does good, my friend, is never overcome by evil. So one who is doing this, he will never be overcome by evil. So that's what Krishna is saying in verse 6.40. An unsuccessful yogi, what happens? By his birth, he will be born in a good family. He will revive the divine consciousness in his early stage, in his youth itself, and he will naturally have an attraction to the yogic principle. There are many examples like this. This example is Jada Bharata, and his previous birth was a Bharata who was attracted to the deer. And so we have this example. I will go through this. This story keeps coming. I'm sure it will come in other chapters. So we will discuss that, and I must have done it in level 1 also. The unsuccessful yogi, after enjoying higher planets, he is born into a family of righteous or into a family of rich aristocracy. For example, we know Srila Prabhupada is an example himself, right? He was born into a family. His father very much wanted him to be a devotee, and he provided him all the facilities. When he said, I want to do a Rath Yatra, if you get an opportunity to read the biography of Prabhupada, there is one available in one book. There is one available, I think, Prabhupada Lilamrit in 4 or 5 volumes. Please read it. You can see, the kind of difficulty he goes through in his life, and yet he had a staunch belief of, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu words that Krishna consciousness will flood the world, and people all over are going to do kirtan. And so he knew that he is an instrument to that. He ultimately did know that. So, and he wanted to also show the world through his life how, even however difficult it is, how he went forward with it. And he actually, those difficulties didn't hurt him, because he just took it in a stride. So he takes birth in a transcendentalist, is what we say in 6.42 and 6.43. On taking such a birth, obviously his divine consciousness of his previous life will immediately take him further, and he will make progress to completely achieve success, O son of Guru. And then at 6.44, Krishna says, and then by virtue of divine consciousness of his previous life, he automatically becomes attracted, and such an inquisitive transcendental stands above the ritualistic principles. He won't get attracted to these Vedic, all these different rituals which give him wealth or all material kind of desire fulfillment. And when the yogi engages himself in such a sincere endeavor, he makes progress, he gets washed away from all contaminations, and he achieves perfection and purity. And many births of practice, he attains, through many births, he attains the supreme goal. So we have come to the final verse over here in 6.46 and 47. What we see is that what is the topmost yogi? So the yogis are greater than empresses, fruitive workers, and ascetics. Of all yogis, those who with full faith always think of Krishna and render service to him, they are the highest. So that is the bhakti. That is the bhakta. So for all yogis, he who always abides in me and has faith that Krishna, you are in control, you are guiding me, you are the one here to support me. Please be graceful and show me that you are, you are there. Show me, please be graceful, and give me that knowledge, let me understand you. So for all yogis, he who abides in me with great faith, worshipping me in transcendental loving service, is most intimately united with me in yoga, and so he is the highest of all. So what does he say? He says, yogi namapi sarvesham मद्गतेनान्तरात्मना श्रद्धावान bhajate yo mam. Shraddhavan, with shraddha, if you're bhajate, if you're able to praise and glorify the Lord, you mam, same yukta tamo matah. So such a person will be the highest yogi, that there's no, he will attain the highest goal of yoga. There is no doubt about that. Okay, that's what he says. So that is what he says is my opinion. Yoginam api sarvesha madgatina antaratmana shraddhavan bhajate yomam sava same yuktatamo matah is a very important verse. So here we can see how the Gopas, right? So the Gopas and all the people in Vrindavan, the whole of Vrindavan, actually including Yashoda Ma, the Gopis, the Gopas, the animals, the plants, the trees. That's why Vrindavan is so special. Everything when Krishna appeared, the Lord, the Supreme Lord in his original form, when he appeared in the world, that Vrindavan was that place where all these different associates of the Lord, they're all highly elevated devotees, and they enjoy the highest pleasure of not even having the knowledge that this person here, Krishna, he's God, and having that respect. They had like a friendly relation, and they had beautiful loving association, and none of them are just simple ordinary people suddenly getting the association of the Lord in such a beautiful way. They are all extremely highly devoted, in the sense that many pious activities, birds and birds of pious activities have got them there to be in his association, lost, completely in loving service with him all the time. The Gopas, they would spend the night waiting for the sun to rise, and they would go running to Krishna, and they would be like, waiting, Krishna, come on, get up, get up, get up. And then they would immediately play with him, just look at him, and he would be, he would, with his Leela, he would make it appear to each and every Gopa that, this Krishna is looking at me. So every Gopa would think that Krishna is looking at me. So even when they're sitting and eating, Krishna would be also eating with them. But every one of them would feel that Krishna is facing me. He's sitting in the center. But everyone around in the circle would feel that Krishna is facing me. That is the kind of Leela that Krishna would play. He would be there for each one of them, and there are, each of these stories, if you just listen to the devotees describing Krishna's stories, you can just get lost in that. And that is the level, highest level, right? Closest association with the Lord himself, as he plays his different Leelas. So this is what is this chapter ultimately concludes, that is the highest stage that we need to reach, which is the Goloka Vrindavan, from where there is no more coming into the whole, I explained about Vishnu, how the breathing, the worlds are coming in and out and in and out. Do you want to just keep going in and out and be manifested, unmanifested, manifested, unmanifested? Don't you, want Krishna is telling us, come to the spiritual world, right? And he's telling us the steps in detail. He says that this is also one way. Yoga, in Ashtanga yoga is also one way. He tells us it's only too long and too difficult. And so in Kali Yuga, he comes as in the form of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself to tell us, come on, just chant. Give your time for chanting. And then, associate with devotees, read books, and then, keep him in your mind all the time. That's it. You achieve the topmost yogi position. So with that, we conclude chapter 6. I hope I have done justice to the time you have spent with me. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna. Anybody would like to share some reflections? Anjali Mataji, did you go through the video I had shared? Actually, that Mataji, Nitai Mataji, she explains the Ramayana for a long time, and towards the end, she comes to your question actually.
So I've heard it. It's a 1.5 hour video. I've heard it about an hour, 10 minutes. I've not yet reached the end because I was traveling after that. But it's very interesting, and I think she does a very good job of it.
Yeah,
You're right.
I love listening to her actually.
Yeah,
She's
she's very
nice.
good. I wish you would post more of her
I
stuff.
will. Whenever I come across, I will. I mean, I keep listening to them. There are 2-3 of these devotees. I listen to Keshav Prabhu a lot, and some of them they're like really wonderful. You need to keep.
Please on the group, then it's easier to just go through your link.
Yeah,
And
I will post.
find it worth listening. I found her beautiful, very lovely. Only I haven't come to the end. I've come to where where Ram is not wanting to bend to put the garland. So
Yeah.
Lakshman comes and he kind of, kind of
Yeah.
tricks him into it. So I've come there. And so I've been traveling, so I was not
I'm
able.
so happy, Mataji, that you're enjoying listening. Just
Yeah,
listening to these
yeah.
stories itself is so elevating and so
Yeah,
so
yeah,
blissful.
no, I really enjoyed that, but I have to come to the end of it. Hopefully next week when I'm back home. So yeah, but please post more.
I will. Okay, sure. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you, everybody. Vancha kalpataru besha kripa sindhu be evacha patitana pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namah. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Mataji.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.